I said don't touch it!
Maggie's hand froze inches from the brick. She hadn't heard him move. Ray Doyle stood behind her now. 53, thinner than she remembered. His eyes locked on the fireplace like it was holy ground. She was 49, a librarian, divorced from this man for 3 years, and she'd come back to clean his mess. The city gave her 7 days. Fix the hazards or they condemn the house. Newspapers climbed to the ceiling. Boxes buried the windows. The smell made her eyes water. But this fireplace? Spotless. The bricks almost glowed. Why is everything filthy except this? Maggie asked. Ray said nothing. She looked closer. One brick seemed newer than the rest. Cleaner edges. Fresh mortar. Then she heard it. From inside the wall. Deep. Metallic. Like something hollow was breathing. Ray's voice dropped to a whisper. Some things are buried for a reason, Maggie. What secret was worth living in garbage to protect? Before we begin, if you could tap subscribe and like, it would mean so much to me. And if you don't mind, please leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from. May health and happiness find their way to you right where you are. All right then, let's begin today's story. Chapter 2. The Rules in the Rubble. Maggie started at sunrise. Gloves on. Mask tight. Garbage bags ready. She grabbed the first newspaper stack. 1987, Reagan was still president. The pages crumbled in her hands like dead leaves. Not that pile. Ray's voice came from the kitchen doorway. He hadn't shaved. Probably hadn't slept either. Then which pile? Maggie snapped. He pointed to a corner. Blue bags only. Those can go. She stared at him. You have a system? Everything has a system. Maggie looked again. Really looked this time. The chaos wasn't random. Blue bags near the door. Black bags by the window. Boxes stacked by year. Envelopes sorted by sender. Even the newspapers followed a pattern. Local on the left. National on the right. Ray. What is this? He didn't answer. Just shuffled back to his recliner. The springs groaned under his weight. She worked for 3 hours. Sweat soaked through her shirt. The smell never got better. Mold. Dust. Something sour underneath it all. But patterns emerged. Medical bills in one box. All paid. Every single one. Bank statements in another. Small deposits. Regular. Like clockwork. $20 here. 50 there. Never more than 100. Where was a broke man getting money? She found receipts from a scrap metal dealer. Dated every Tuesday for 5 years. Cash payments. Small amounts. Consistent. Ray was selling something. But what? Around noon, a knock at the door. Mrs. Alvarez from next door. 68 years old. Retired teacher. White hair pinned back neat. She held a plate of sandwiches covered in plastic wrap. Thought you might need lunch, dear. Maggie took the plate. Her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since yesterday. Thank you. I'm Maggie. We met at the... I remember you, dear. The wedding. You wore yellow flowers in your hair. Daisies, I think. 25 years ago. Someone remembered. That's right. How did you... I was the one who grew them. Mrs. Alvarez smiled. Ray asked me special. Said you loved daisies? Wanted everything perfect. Maggie's throat tightened. She'd forgotten that detail. Buried it with everything else. Mrs. Alvarez glanced at Ray through the dirty window. Her smile faded. He wasn't always like this, you know. I know. No. The old woman's voice dropped. You don't. Ray was fine until 5 years ago. Then something changed. Overnight almost. What happened? Mrs. Alvarez looked at the fireplace through the dirty glass. Her eyes narrowed. He became afraid of fire. Wouldn't let anyone near that hearth. Canceled the gas service. Threw out all his matches. I thought he'd lost his mind. Maybe he did. But here's the strange part. She leaned closer, lowered her voice. He never stopped tending that fireplace. Every night, I see his shadow through the window, on his knees, polishing those bricks like they're made of gold. Maggie set down the sandwiches. Why would someone afraid of fire spend hours by a fireplace? That's what I've been wondering. For 5 years. Mrs. Alvarez squeezed Maggie's hand. Whatever he's hiding, dear, it's not madness. I've seen madness. Watched my husband slip away from Alzheimer's. This is different. This is deliberate. She walked back toward her house. Stopped at the fence. One more thing. About a year after the change, A man came looking for Ray. Fancy car? Expensive suit. Asked a lot of questions about property values, about what Ray might have inherited. Who was he? Said he was family. Ray's brother. Ray doesn't have a brother. Mrs. Alvarez shrugged. That's what Ray said, too. But the man came back. 3 times. Always when Ray wasn't home. Always asking questions. She disappeared into her house. Maggie stood alone. The sandwiches went cold in her hands. Back inside, she found Ray exactly where she'd left him. Eyes fixed on the fireplace. Hands gripping the armrests. Ray, who came looking for you? A man in an expensive suit? His knuckles went white. Nobody important. Mrs. Alvarez says he came 3 times. Mrs. Alvarez talks too much. She says he claimed to be your brother. Ray's jaw clenched. A muscle twitched in his cheek. I don't have a brother. Not anymore. What does that mean? He finally looked at her. His eyes were hollow, exhausted. It means some people are dead to you even when they're still breathing. He turned back to the fireplace. Maggie worked until dark. Found more mysteries than answers. A shoebox full of cash. Small bills. Rubber-banded in stacks of $50 each. A notebook with dates and names. People she didn't recognize. Amounts that didn't add up. And in the bedroom, their old bedroom, a drawer full of letters. Addressed to her. Never sent. She opened one. Dated 3 years ago. The week after their divorce was final. Maggie, I know you hate me. I hate me too. But someday you'll understand. Someday I'll explain everything. Just not yet. Not until it's safe. I'm sorry. For all of it. Ray, safe from what? She drove to her motel room. Couldn't sleep. The letter burned in her pocket. Around 2 a.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. Ask your ex about your father's name on the deed. What deed? Her father died 10 years ago. Left nothing but debts and silence. What did Thomas Brennan have to do with Ray's garbage house? Chapter 3. A Daughter's Warning. Lila arrived on day 3. Maggie heard the car before she saw it. An old Honda Civic. Dented bumper. Rust around the wheel wells. The kind of car a night shift nurse could afford. Her daughter stepped out. 24 years old. Dark circles under her eyes. Scrubs still on. She'd driven straight from the hospital. Mom, Leela, you didn't have to come. Yes, I did. They hugged. Brief. Careful. The way they always did now. Like they were both afraid of breaking something. Lila pulled back first. Looked at the house. Her face didn't change. It's worse than the photos. Maggie blinked. You've seen photos? Dad sends them sometimes. Updates. The word hit like a slap. He sends you photos? Of this? He sends me a lot of things, Mom. Lila walked past her. Through the front door. Into the chaos. Maggie followed. Watched her daughter move through the clutter like she knew the paths. Stepping over boxes. Ducking under hanging bags. Never hesitating because she'd done it before. You've been here before. Every month. Lila picked up a trash bag. Started sorting without being asked. Someone had to check on him. The sting became a burn. Why didn't you tell me? Because you didn't want to know. Lila's voice was flat. Professional. The voice she probably used with difficult patience. You wanted him gone. Out of your life. Out of your head. Out of every photo album and memory box. That's not. Mom, you threw away your wedding album. I watched you do it. You deleted every photo from the cloud. You acted like 25 years never happened. Maggie's hands shook. She gripped a doorframe to steady herself. He broke my heart, Lila. Did he? Her daughter stopped sorting. Turned to face her. Or did you break your own? Silence. Heavy as the dust in the air. What does that mean? It means you left him. Not the other way around. You filed the papers. You moved out. You demanded he sign. Because he was impossible. The hoarding. The secrets. The way he just disappeared inside himself. Did you ever ask why? Of course I asked. Did you wait for an answer? Maggie opened her mouth, closed it. The truth was heavy. She hadn't waited. Hadn't wanted to. By the end, she just wanted out. They worked in silence for an hour. The only sound was rustling plastic and creaking floors. Occasionally, Ray's cough from the other room. Finally, Lila spoke again. Mom, there's something you need to know. What? Those checks you got. After the divorce. The anonymous ones. Maggie's blood went cold. For 3 years, an envelope had arrived every month. No return address. Cash inside. Sometimes $200. Sometimes 3. Never a note. Never a name. She told herself it was a mistake. A weird bank error. Something she didn't need to question. How do you know about those? Lila set down her garbage bag. Because I mailed them. The room tilted. What? Dad gave me cash. Every month. From his scrap metal sales. From odd jobs. From selling his tools piece by piece. Her voice cracked. He made me promise. Said to send it without a return address. Said you'd never take it if you knew. No. He sold his truck, Mom. The Ford he'd had since before you got married. Sold it to pay your heating bill that first winter. No. He was broke. He couldn't even... He was never broke. Tears streamed down Lila's face. He just gave everything away. To you. To me. To keeping this house standing so he could protect whatever's in that fireplace. Maggie grabbed the wall. Her legs wouldn't hold. Why? Why would he do that? Lila wiped her face with the back of her hand. Because he never stopped loving you. Even when you stopped loving him. Even when you told everyone he was crazy. Even when you called him a hoarder and a failure and said the divorce was the best decision you ever made. Every word was a knife. Because they were all true. Ray appeared in the doorway. He'd heard everything. His face was gray. His hands trembled at his sides. Father and daughter exchanged a look. Something passed between them. A secret language Maggie didn't speak. Years of visits and phone calls and shared burdens she knew nothing about. Lila. Ray's voice was gentle. Tired. That's enough. No, Dad. She needs to know. Not yet. When? When the city takes the house. When Vince gets here first? Ray flinched at the name. Vince! The mysterious brother. The man in the expensive suit. Who's Vince? Maggie demanded. Neither answered. Ray. Who is Vince? He walked to the fireplace. Placed his palm flat against the clean bricks. Like he was touching something holy. My brother. You don't have a brother. You told me your family was gone. That you were an orphan. I told you what I needed to tell you. His voice cracked. Broke. To keep you safe. Lila grabbed her mother's hands. Squeezed hard. Mom, listen to me. Dad isn't crazy. He's not a hoarder. He's not a failure. Everything he's done for 5 years, the garbage, the isolation, the poverty, it's all been to protect something. Protect what? I don't know exactly. But I know it involves you, and your father, and whatever's behind those bricks. Ray turned around. His face was pale. His eyes were wet. Lila, take your mother home. Please, Dad. Now, please. Before it's too late. Lila hesitated, then nodded. She led Maggie out to the Honda. They drove in silence through empty streets, past houses dark with sleep. At the motel, Lila hugged her. Longer this time. Tighter. Like she might never let go. I'm sorry I kept secrets. Why did you? Lila pulled back. Her eyes were red, swollen. Because Dad was keeping you alive. The money, the distance, the silence. It was all to keep you away from whatever he's fighting. And I couldn't risk you pushing him away completely. She got back in her car, rolled down the window. Mom, whatever you think you know about this family, you're wrong. About all of it. The Honda disappeared into the night. Maggie stood alone in the parking lot. 3 in the morning. Stars hidden behind clouds. Her father, Ray's brother, anonymous money. The fireplace. What had she walked into? Her phone buzzed. Same unknown number. 7 days was generous. You have 4 left. Sincerely, V. Chapter 4. When deadlines become knives. Day 4. Owen Park arrived at 9 a.m. sharp. City inspector. 45 years old. Black hair going gray at the temples. Clipboard in one hand. Flashlight in the other. Face like stone. Miss Doyle? That's me. I'm here for the safety evaluation. You have 72 hours remaining on your compliance notice. He stepped inside. Didn't flinch at the smell. Didn't comment on the chaos. Just started working. Electrical first. He tested outlets with a device that beeped red every time. Made notes in tiny handwriting. His pen scratched the paper like a judge writing a verdict. Failed? Failed. Failed. Every outlet. Every switch. Every wire he could find. The wiring is 40 years old. Original installation. Insulation is degraded. Fire risk. He looked up. This alone could condemn the property. Maggie's stomach dropped. What about the gas lines? More testing. More notes. More red lights on his equipment. Failed? Leaking valve near the kitchen stove. Small leak, but consistent. One spark could ignite the whole room. We'll fix it. In 3 days? Owen's eyebrow rose. Miss Doyle, the repairs I'm documenting would take a licensed contractor 2 weeks minimum. With permits. We'll try. He moved through the house. Methodical. Thorough. Maggie followed like a defendant awaiting sentence. The bathroom. Failed? Water damage under the floor. The bedroom. Failed? Ceiling showed signs of structural stress. The kitchen. Failed? Mold in the walls. Every room. Every surface. Every corner. Failed? Mr. Park. Maggie grabbed his arm. Please, there has to be something we can do. He stopped. Looked at her. For the first time, his expression softened. I've been doing this job for 20 years. I've seen houses in worse shape. Not many, but some. He lowered his voice. I don't want to condemn this property, but I need something to work with. Like what? Show me one thing, one major system that's up to code. Give me a reason to extend the deadline. Hope flickered. The fireplace. Ray rebuilt it himself. He's a stonemason. Professional. Owen's eyes narrowed. Show me. They walked to the living room. Ray sat in his recliner, watching. His hands gripped the armrests like he was bracing for impact. Owen crouched by the hearth. Examined the bricks. Ran his finger along the mortar lines. Tapped the stones with his knuckle. This is interesting. What is? The rest of this house is a disaster. But this masonry? He whistled low. Professional grade. Clean lines. Proper mortar depth. Recent work, too. Very recent. Maggie held her breath. See this brick here? He pointed to the newer one. The one Maggie had noticed the first day. Different age than the others. Someone replaced it. Within the last 5 years, I'd guess. My ex-husband is a stonemason. Retired stonemason, according to county records. Owen stood. Why would a retired stonemason rebuild part of his own fireplace? In a house he was letting fall apart everywhere else? I don't know. Don't you? Their eyes met. Something flickered in his expression. Not suspicion, not accusation, recognition. Like he'd seen this before. Miss Doyle, I have to note this in my report. Structural modification without permit. The fireplace needs official inspection before I can clear the house. You mean you have to open it? I mean someone does. A licensed structural engineer. To verify it's safe. Standard procedure when unpermitted work is detected. Ray stood up fast. His chair scraped against the floor. The fireplace is fine. Owen turned. Mr. Doyle, I didn't see you there. I built that fireplace 40 years ago with my father-in-law. Rebuilt parts of it myself, by hand, with materials I paid for. I know every brick. Then you won't mind an inspection. Ray's jaw tightened. His hands balled into fists. I mind strangers in my house. With respect, sir, the city is about to take your house. An inspection might save it. Silence stretched between them. Maggie watched her ex-husband's face. The war happening behind his eyes. Fear battling pride. Secrets fighting to stay buried. Finally, Ray spoke. Give me 2 more days. I'll open it myself. You can see everything. Owen hesitated. That's not standard procedure. Please, Ray's voice broke. The word came out rough, raw. 2 days. Then you can see everything I've been protecting. The inspector looked at Maggie. Then at Ray. Then at the fireplace with its mismatched brick. 48 hours. Not a minute more. And I'll need to be present when you open it. Fine. Along with a legal witness. Someone who can verify chain of custody for whatever's inside. Ray flinched, but nodded. Fine. Owen headed for the door. Stopped with his hand on the knob. Mr. Doyle, I've seen a lot of houses in this job. A lot of secrets people tried to hide in walls and floors and ceilings. He looked back. Whatever you've got in there, I hope it's worth what you've sacrificed. He left. His car pulled away in a cloud of dust. Maggie turned on Ray. What is in there? Maggie? No. No more secrets. No more protection. No more waiting until I'm ready. She stepped closer. "Tell me what you're hiding, or I'll take a sledgehammer to that wall myself." Ray sank into his chair. He looked old, broken, tired beyond words. "Your father," he whispered. "What about my father?" "He left something. For you, before he died." Maggie's heart stopped. "My father didn't leave me anything. He died with nothing. Debts and silence. That's all I inherited. That's all anyone was supposed to believe." "Ray, your father wasn't poor, Maggie. He wasn't a failure. He was hiding." "Hiding from what?" Ray looked at the fireplace, at the clean bricks he polished every night. "From the same person I've been hiding from for 5 years." The front door crashed open. A man stood in the doorway. 50 years old. Expensive coat. Italian shoes. Smile like a shark. "Hello, little brother." Vince Doyle had arrived. Chapter 5. The Smell of Money. Vince walked in like he owned the place. Maybe he thought he did. He was taller than Ray, broader, hands that had never held a tool, eyes that calculated the value of everything they touched. "Maggie, it's been years." He spread his arms wide. "You look tired." "Get out!" Ray stood up fast, put himself between Vince and Maggie. "Easy, brother. I'm just here to help." "You've never helped anyone in your life." Vince laughed. Smooth. Practiced. The laugh of a man who'd talked his way out of 1,000 corners. "That hurts, Ray. After everything I've done for this family, you're not family." "Not anymore." Maggie studied the newcomer. Same cheekbones as Ray. Same line of the jaw. But where Ray was worn down by work and worry, Vince was polished, pampered. "Who are you?" she asked. "Vince Doyle, Ray's older brother. The one he pretended didn't exist." He pulled off his gloves, finger by finger, slow. "The one he told you was dead, probably. Or gone. Or never born. Ray said he had no family." "Ray says a lot of things." Vince walked around the room, picked up a dusty photo frame, examined it like a collector at an auction. "He also said this house was worthless. Said he was broke. Said he had nothing left to lose." He set the frame down, turned to face them both. "But we both know better, don't we?" Ray stepped between them again. "Leave her out of this." "Leave her out?" Vince's smile widened. "She's the reason I'm here. Everything in this house belongs to her now. Or rather, everything valuable does." Maggie felt cold. "What are you talking about?" Vince reached into his coat, pulled out an envelope. Thick, yellow, official-looking. "County records. Property deeds? Your father owned something valuable, Maggie. Something he hid for decades. Something Ray found when he was cleaning out the old cabin." "That's enough." Ray's voice shook. "Is it?" 5 years of living in garbage, Ray. 5 years of letting people think you'd lost your mind. For what? To keep a secret that isn't even yours?" Maggie grabbed the envelope. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside were legal documents. Complex. Full of numbers and signatures and stamps. Language she barely understood. But one name jumped out. Thomas Brennan. Her father. "I don't understand." "Your daddy was smart." Vince moved closer. His cologne was expensive. Suffocating. Smarter than anyone gave him credit for. Back in the 80s, he bought stock in a little company. Just a few $100s. Penny stock. Worth nothing at the time. "What company?" "Does it matter? What matters is that company grew. Became something big. And those shares your father bought?" Vince whistled. "Worth a fortune now. If they still exist. If someone didn't burn them or hide them or pretend they never existed." He looked at Ray. "Which brings us to this fireplace. You need to leave." Ray's hands were shaking now. His whole body was shaking. "I need what's mine. Nothing here is yours. Everything here is mine." Vince's smile disappeared. His voice went flat, cold. "Your father-in-law owed me money. A lot of money. From a business deal gone bad. He promised me those shares as collateral. Then he died before he could pay up." "That's a lie." "Is it? Ask yourself why he hid everything. Why he made himself look poor. Why he drove that old truck and wore those old clothes when he was sitting on a gold mine." Maggie's head was spinning. "How much?" she whispered. "How much are the shares worth?" Vince turned to her. His eyes glittered. "Enough to kill for." The room went cold. "That's an interesting choice of words," Maggie said slowly. It's a true choice of words. He stepped closer. Ray tried to block him. Vince pushed past easily. Ask Ray how your father really died. That car crash, that icy road, single vehicle accident. No witnesses. It was an accident. Was it? Vince looked at Ray. You were the last one to see him alive. You were the one who found the lockbox. You were the one who decided to hide everything instead of doing the right thing. The right thing for you. The right thing for everyone. Ray lunged. Maggie caught his arm. Don't. That's what he wants. Vince straightened his coat, smoothed his hair. 48 hours. That's what the inspector gave you, right? 48 hours before he opens that fireplace. He smiled again. I'll be back. With lawyers. With a court order if I need one. And I'll take what Thomas owed me. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the frame. Oh, one more thing. He turned to Maggie. Your father left a letter, too. In with the papers. Addressed to you. Sealed. He tilted his head. I haven't read it. Ray has, but he never showed it to you. Maggie's blood ran cold. Ask him why. The door closed. His car engine started. Faded away. Silence. Maggie faced Ray. Is it true? There's a letter from my father? Yes. And you've read it? Yes. For 5 years? Yes. She slapped him. The sound echoed through the cluttered room. Her hand stung. His cheek went red. How dare you? Her voice broke. How dare you keep that from me? I was protecting you. From what? My own father's words? From the truth, Maggie. Tears ran down his face. The truth about what he did. What he was hiding. Why he really died. I don't care about the truth. I care about seeing his words, hearing his voice. One last time. You will. When you're ready. I'm ready now. Ray shook his head slowly. No. First you need to understand everything. The money. The danger. Why I built this prison around myself. He pointed to the fireplace. That wall holds the only proof your father loved you, and the only thing keeping us both alive. Chapter 6. The fireplace breathes. Night fell. Day 5. Maggie couldn't leave. Not now. Not with everything so close to the surface. She sat in an old dining chair. Ray sat in his recliner. The fireplace stood between them, silent, waiting, like a judge about to deliver a verdict. Start from the beginning, Maggie said. Ray rubbed his face. 5 years of exhaustion in every line. 5 years of secrets pressing down on his shoulders. After the divorce, I needed money. Work was slow. Nobody hires a stonemason in winter. He stared at the cold hearth. Your father's lawyer called. Said someone needed to clean out the cabin. Said there'd be a small payment. I didn't know there was a cabin. Nobody did. That was the point. He stood, walked to the fireplace, touched the bricks like greeting old friends. I found a lockbox under the floorboards, hidden beneath a loose board near the wood stove. Inside were stock certificates, old ones, physical paper, not electronic, and a letter. To me? To you? He paused. But there was something else. A note in his handwriting, explaining everything. Maggie's throat tightened. Her father's handwriting. She remembered it from birthday cards, grocery lists on the fridge, notes left on her pillow when she was sick. Your father bought those shares 40 years ago, from a friend who needed quick cash. Forgot about them, mostly. Life got in the way. Then the dementia started. I remember. Those last years. Watching him fade. Watching his mind empty out like water from a cracked jar. By the time he realized what they were worth, Vince had already found out. They were old poker buddies, your dad and Vince. Met at a game in the 70s. Stayed in touch. My father knew Vince for decades. And your father made a mistake. Mentioned the shares once. Just once. Over drinks. Said he'd found something interesting in his old files. That was enough? For Vince? That was more than enough. Ray's hands pressed flat against the mantel. His knuckles went white. Vince started pressuring him. Said he'd tell the IRS about unreported assets. Said he had lawyers who could make your father's life hell. Said he'd find a way to take everything through legal channels. Blackmail. Worse than blackmail. Vince is patient. He doesn't threaten, he implies. He suggests. He lets you imagine the worst possible outcome. And my father? He panicked. Hid everything. Made himself look poor. Sold his nice car. Moved to that cabin, lived like a hermit, so no one would suspect he was sitting on a fortune. And the car crash? Ray's voice dropped to a whisper. I don't know for certain. Maybe an accident. Maybe not. But I know Vince was watching him that week, following him. I know because he was watching me too. Maggie felt sick. Why didn't you go to the police? With what? Suspicions? Feelings? Against a man with lawyers and connections and alibis for everything? Ray laughed bitterly. Vince has been playing this game his whole life. He knows how to wait, how to watch, how to let other people destroy themselves. So you hid in garbage. I hid in plain sight. He turned to face her. Made myself look like nothing. Made this house look like trash. Because Vince would never dig through garbage looking for gold. It worked. For 5 years. But I was getting tired. The city started sending notices. The neighbors started calling code enforcement. And Vince? He shook his head. Vince never stopped watching. Never stopped waiting. Maggie stood. Walked to him. Put her hand next to his on the cold bricks. Show me. Not yet, Ray. Tomorrow. When the inspector comes. We open it together. With witnesses. So Vince can't claim we forged anything or planted evidence. She pulled her hand back. You've thought of everything. I've had 5 years. They stood in silence. The house creaked around them, old bones settling into the night. Maggie noticed the fireplace tools for the first time. Iron poker with a brass handle. Matching brush and shovel. All gleaming. You polish these every night. Every night. Why? Ray picked up the brush. Turned it in his hands. Your father gave me this set. Wedding present. 25 years ago. He smiled faintly. Said a man should keep his hearth warm. Said it was his job to build fires that would keep his family safe. Tears burned Maggie's eyes. I didn't know that. There's a lot you don't know. He set the brush down. But you will. Tomorrow. Something caught her eye. The newer brick. Under the lamplight. There was a mark on it. Small. Almost invisible. A scratching that could have been damage. But it wasn't. A bird. Wings spread. Carved into the stone. What's that? Ray froze. A sparrow. His voice caught. Your father's signature? He carved it on everything he made. My father was a carpenter. Among other things, Maggie traced the tiny bird with her finger. Her father's hands had touched this brick, had held this stone, had left their mark, even in death. Ray, yeah? Thank you, her voice broke, for keeping him close, for all of it. He didn't answer, but his hand found hers in the darkness. They stood like that for a long time. Two people, broken by time, held together by a secret in the wall. Outside, a car engine started, then stopped. A light flickered. A camera flash, maybe, or a phone screen. Someone was watching. Chapter 7. The Key is Memory. Day 6. Dawn came gray and cold. Mrs. Alvarez knocked at 7. Earlier than usual. I brought something. Her voice was urgent. I was up all night looking for it. She held an old shoebox, faded green, wrapped in brittle rubber bands that snapped when she touched them. What is this? Photographs. From the old days. 40 years of neighborhood memories. She stepped inside. I thought you might need them. They sat at the kitchen table. Ray watched from the doorway. Arms crossed. Face unreadable. Mrs. Alvarez opened the box with trembling hands. I was the neighborhood photographer. Every barbecue. Every Christmas. Every wedding and funeral and birthday party. She spread the photos across the table like tarot cards. Nobody asked me to do it. I just liked capturing moments before they disappeared. Maggie saw her past in faded Polaroids and curling Kodak prints. Birthday parties with homemade cakes. Summer cookouts with smoking grills. Faces she'd forgotten. Names she couldn't remember. There. Mrs. Alvarez pointed at a photo near the edge. Your wedding day. June 1999. Maggie picked it up. Her breath caught. She and Ray. So young. So hopeful. Standing by the fireplace in their wedding clothes. She wore white with yellow daisies in her hair. He wore a suit that didn't quite fit. They were smiling like the world would never hurt them. But something else caught her eye. The fireplace in the photo. The brick pattern. Something was different. Ray, come here. He walked over slowly. Looked at the photo. His face went pale. You see it too, Maggie whispered. The newer brick. In today's fireplace. It wasn't there in 1999. None of them were. The whole lower section was different. The pattern had changed. The mortar lines were wrong. You rebuilt more than one brick. I rebuilt the whole hearth. When? 5 years ago. Right after I found your father's lockbox. He sat down heavily. I needed somewhere safe. Somewhere Vince would never think to look. Mrs. Alvarez leaned in, squinting through her reading glasses. What are we looking at? Maggie pointed at the old photo, then gestured toward the living room. The fireplace today. It's been completely modified. The whole base is different. The old woman's eyes widened. That's why he kept everyone away. That's why he lived in filth. To hide the construction. Maggie finished the thought. To make sure no one looked too closely. Ray sank deeper into his chair. Vince visited once, right after Thomas's funeral. Said he knew your father left something valuable. Searched the whole house while I was at work. How do you know? Things were moved. Drawers left open. He tore apart the attic. The basement. Checked every closet and cabinet and crawl space. Ray shook his head. But he never thought to check the fireplace. Because you'd already sealed it. Behind 5 inches of concrete and 38 bricks. Fireproofed. Waterproofed. Sealed tight. Mrs. Alvarez squeezed Maggie's hand. Your ex-husband built a vault, dear, in the middle of his living room. And he spent 5 years pretending to be crazy, so no one would notice. Maggie stared at Ray. All that time, all that judgment. Everyone called him a hoarder, a failure, a cautionary tale, and he just let them. Why didn't you fight back? Why didn't you tell someone? Tell them what? Point to a fireplace and say, my dead father-in-law hid a fortune in there? He laughed bitterly. I would have sounded crazier than they already thought I was. You could have told me. You would have told Lila. Lila would have told a friend. The friend would have told someone else. Eventually, Vince would have known. You sacrificed your reputation. I sacrificed everything. His voice broke. My name, my dignity, my marriage, everything except the one thing I was protecting. He looked at her, really looked, and Maggie saw the depth of what he'd carried. 5 years of silence, 5 years of shame, 5 years of watching people walk by his house and shake their heads. You think I don't know what people say? What you said? His voice shook. Ray went crazy. Ray lost it. Ray lives in garbage because he couldn't handle real life. I'm sorry. I heard all of it. Every whisper, every pitying glance, every time Lila defended me to people who didn't care. Ray. But I didn't care what they thought. I only cared that the secret stayed safe. Until you could have it. Mrs. Alvarez pulled another photo from the box. Look at this one. From when you were first married. The fireplace again, but this time young Ray crouched beside it. Working. Installing something. A hearthstone. And carved into the stone. Barely visible in the old photograph. A sparrow. Your father was there that day. Mrs. Alvarez tapped the edge of the photo. He helped Ray build the original hearth. Put his mark on it. I remember now. Ray's voice was soft. Thomas said something about keeping the home fires burning, even after he was gone. I thought it was just words. Maggie covered her mouth. Her father, a man she thought had abandoned her, a man she thought didn't care. He'd helped build her first home, left his signature in the stone, hidden his gift, where only someone who truly looked would find it. And 20 years later, Ray had built a fortress around that same spot to keep her father's last gift safe. Tomorrow, Ray said quietly, we open it. With the inspector. With witnesses. And you see everything your father left behind. Maggie couldn't speak, so she did something she hadn't done in 3 years. She reached across the table, took Ray's hand, and didn't let go. Chapter 8. $1 Million of Truth. Day 7. The final morning. Owen Park arrived first. 8 a.m. sharp. Clipboard ready. Face serious. Hannah Price came second. Estate lawyer. 60 years old. Silver hair pulled back. Briefcase in hand. Leela arrived third. Still in scrubs. Straight from night shift. She hadn't slept either. Mrs. Alvarez brought coffee and sandwiches. Set up a folding table in the corner. And Vince? Vince stood on the sidewalk. Watching. Waiting. phone pressed to his ear. A man in a dark suit stood beside him. Probably a lawyer. Let's begin. Owen pulled on work gloves. Mr. Doyle, you said you'd open the fireplace yourself. Ray nodded. Picked up a hammer. A chisel. His hands were steady now. The shaking from yesterday was gone. He looked like a man about to finish something he'd started a long time ago. Maggie, come stand next to me. She did? Whatever happens, he whispered. Remember one thing. Your father loved you, more than you ever knew. He struck the first brick. The sound echoed through the silent room. Dust rose. Mortar crumbled. It took 20 minutes. Careful work. Precise. Each brick removed and set aside with the care of a surgeon. Behind the first layer was concrete, 2 inches thick, gray and solid. You weren't kidding about fireproofing, Owen muttered. My father-in-law was paranoid. Ray kept working. Turns out he had good reason. The concrete crumbled under his chisel, revealed a metal surface beneath. Dark green paint, brass fittings, a safe, built into the wall itself. I'll be damned. Hannah Price stepped closer. Her eyes widened. That's a vintage Liberty. Industrial grade. Fireproof. Waterproof. They stopped making these in the 60s. Thomas bought it at an estate sale in 1978. Ray wiped sweat from his face. Said it survived a house fire in Pennsylvania. 300 degrees for 6 hours. Everything inside was fine. What's the combination? Ray looked at Maggie. Your birthday. Your mother's birthday. And Lila's birthday. His voice caught. 3 numbers he never forgot. Even when he forgot everything else. Maggie's hands trembled as she stepped forward. The dial was cold under her fingers. Bold but smooth. Left. Stop! Right. Stop! Left. Click. The door swung open with a soft groan. Inside were 3 things. A stack of paper. Stock certificates. Yellow with age. Rubber banded together. An envelope. Sealed. For Maggie. Written in familiar handwriting. And a cassette tape. Labeled in red marker. Evidence. Play if Vince comes. Ray reached for the certificates. Hannah took them. Let me see. She examined each page. Her eyebrows rose higher with every certificate. These are original shares. Blue chip company. Very old issue. How much? Maggie barely recognized her own voice. At current market value? Hannah looked up. Her face was pale. These are worth $2.3 million. The room went absolutely silent. More than that. Owen pointed at the papers. Those are pre-split shares. If they've never been claimed, with dividends reinvested automatically. $3 million. Hannah's voice was barely a whisper. Maybe 3.5. Maggie's legs went weak. Lila caught her. Mom! Mom! Breathe. But Maggie couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process. $3.5 million. Hidden in a wall. For 30 years. The tape. Ray picked it up. Thomas recorded Vince's threats. All of them. Dates. Times. Specific demands. In case anything happened to him. Evidence, Hannah said. Of extortion. Enough to put Vince away for years, if anyone has the courage to use it. The front door crashed open. Vince stormed in. His lawyer tried to hold him back. Failed. Give me those papers. Owen stepped forward. Sir, you need to leave. Those shares are mine. Thomas owed me money. $50,000 from a business deal in 1992. Those shares were my collateral. Do you have documentation? I don't need documentation. I need what's mine. Ray moved between Vince and the safe. Nothing here is yours. Nothing here ever was. You stole from me, little brother. Vince's face was red. Twisted. 5 years of my life. Wasted. Watching you rot in this garbage heap. Waiting for you to slip up. Then your wait is over. Leave. Vince laughed. The sound was wild. Desperate. The laugh of a man watching everything slip away. You think I'm leaving empty-handed? After everything? He lunged. Not at Ray. Not at the safe. At Maggie. At the envelope in her hands. Ray moved faster. He shoved Maggie aside. Took the hit himself. Vince's fist connected with Ray's jaw. The crack echoed through the room. Then his ribs. Once, twice, 3 times. Ray didn't fight back. Didn't swing. Didn't even raise his hands. Just blocked. Protected. Kept his body between Vince and Maggie. Bought time. Owen grabbed Vince from behind, pinned his arms, forced him to the ground. That's assault. In front of witnesses. In front of a city official. You're done, Vince thrashed. Screamed. Spit flew from his lips. Those shares are mine. Thomas promised. He swore. Save it for the police. Owen's voice was calm, cold. He'd dealt with desperate men before. Hannah was already on the phone. Yes. We need officers at this address. We have an assault in progress. Yes. I'll hold. Maggie crawled to Ray. He was on the floor. Blood dripped from his lip. He clutched his ribs. You idiot. Tears streamed down her face. You stupid, wonderful, stubborn idiot. He tried to smile. Winced instead. Couldn't let him take your letter. She looked at the envelope. Crumpled now, but intact. Why does this matter so much? Open it. You'll understand. Her hands shook as she tore the seal. Inside was a single page. Handwritten. Dated 20 years ago. The day of her wedding. My dear Maggie, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I'm sorry. For so many things. I wasn't a good father. I know that now. I was scared of loving you too much. Scared of losing you the way I lost your mother. So I kept my distance. Built walls. Made you think I didn't care. But I did. Every single day. Every single moment. These shares are yours. I bought them the year you were born. $100. Everything I had. I thought they'd be worthless forever. I thought wrong. I'm giving you what I couldn't give you while I was alive. Security. Freedom. A future without fear. But more important than money, I'm giving you the truth. You were never abandoned, Maggie. You were never unloved. You were protected. Always. Even when you couldn't see it. Trust Ray. He promised to keep you safe. He's a better man than I ever was. And he loves you more than I could ever say. Be happy. That's all I ever wanted. I love you. I always did. I always will. Dad. Maggie couldn't see. Tears blurred everything. He knew. Her voice cracked. He knew about you and me. Thomas asked me to marry you. Ray's voice was barely a whisper. 26 years ago. Before I even worked up the nerve. Asked me to keep you safe. To build you a home. To be the father he couldn't be. And you promised. I promised. Even after the divorce? Even after I threw you away? Ray took her hand. Squeezed it weak but warm. Promises don't expire. Not the ones that matter. Chapter 9. The sacrifice revealed. The police came within 10 minutes. 2 cruisers. 4 officers. They found Vince face down on the floor, with Owen's knee on his back. Assault. Attempted theft. Breaking and entering. Owen listed the charges calmly. I'm a city official. I witnessed everything. This is a misunderstanding. Vince's lawyer tried to intervene. My client was simply, your client attacked 2 people in front of 5 witnesses. Hannah stepped forward. We also have audio recordings of years of threats and extortion, made by the deceased victim himself. She held up the cassette tape. This contains conversations between Vincent Doyle and Thomas Brennan. Dated. Time-stamped. Mr. Brennan feared for his life. He documented everything. The lawyer went pale. They took Vince away in handcuffs. He screamed the whole way to the car. This isn't over. Those shares are mine. I'll sue every one of you. The cruiser door slammed. The sirens faded into the gray morning. Silence. Ray sat in his torn recliner, ice pack pressed to his ribs, blood drying on his chin. He looked broken, empty, like a man who'd finally set down a weight he'd carried for too long. Maggie knelt beside him. You need a hospital. I need to finish first. Finish what? The story. He winced. You deserve all of it. Lila brought him water. Mrs. Alvarez brought a clean cloth for his face. After I found the safe, Ray began slowly, I knew Vince would come eventually. He'd been circling Thomas for years, like a vulture, waiting for him to die, waiting to claim whatever was left. Why didn't he just steal it while my father was alive? Because he didn't know where it was. Thomas moved the safe 3 times over the years. Vince followed him, searched his houses, never found it. So how did it end up here? Ray smiled faintly. Thomas trusted me more than anyone. When he started forgetting things, names, places, faces, he asked me to help. Put it somewhere safe, he said. Somewhere Vince will never think to look. In a fireplace. In the fireplace I helped him build. In the house where his daughter lived. Hidden in plain sight. And when he died, I panicked. Ray's voice shook. Called his old lawyer. Told him what I'd found. He was dying too. Cancer. Said to keep it hidden until the time was right. Hannah nodded from her corner. My predecessor, Charles Webb. He left notes about this case. Asked me to help when the moment came. But why 5 years? Maggie's voice broke. Why wait so long? Why let yourself become this? She gestured at the room. The garbage. The decay. The ruins of a life. Ray closed his eyes. Because of the divorce, you wanted nothing from me. No contact. No money. No memories. If I showed up with $3 million, you would have thought it was a trick. I wouldn't have. Yes, you would. He opened his eyes. Met her gaze. You know you would. You would have thought I was trying to buy you back. Or manipulate you. Or prove something. Maggie looked away. Because he was right. That was exactly what she would have thought. So I waited. Watched Vince. Made sure he stayed confused. Every time he got close, I added more garbage. More chaos. Made myself look crazier. The anonymous checks. Every month. From my scrap metal sales. From selling my tools. From anything I could find. He tried to laugh. It turned into a cough. Wasn't much. But I couldn't let you struggle alone. Ray. She took his hand. You gave me everything you had. I gave what I could. The rest was waiting in the wall. Lila sat on the floor beside them. Her scrubs were wrinkled. Her eyes were red. I knew some of it, she said quietly. Not all. Dad made me promise. You were my backup, Ray said. If something happened to me, you knew where to look. But I never knew it was millions. Lila's voice trembled. I thought it was just documents. Old papers. Sentimental stuff. Some secrets are too heavy for young shoulders. Maggie looked around the room. The garbage was still everywhere. The smell hadn't changed. The inspector's red marks still covered the walls. But everything was different now. You built a disguise, she said slowly. Out of trash. I built armor. Made myself look like nothing. Made this house look worthless. Because Vince would never search garbage for gold. And it worked. For 5 years. Until the city ran out of patience. He coughed again. Grimaced. The ice pack slipped. But I was running out of time anyway. My body's not what it used to be. And Vince was getting desperate. Taking bigger risks. I knew he'd make a move eventually. So you let the deadline force things. I couldn't stop it. But I could use it. Ray smiled weakly. Made sure there'd be witnesses. Officials. Lawyers. Everything documented and legal. Maggie pressed her forehead to his hand. I'm sorry. For everything I said. Everything I thought. Every time I called you crazy or broken or lost, you saw what I wanted you to see. I should have looked harder. Looking harder was the one thing that would have ruined everything. She lifted her head, looked at his battered face. I called you a hoarder, a failure. Said you ruined your own life. I did ruin my own life. Just not for the reasons you thought. For me. For you. For Lila. For a promise I made to a dying man who trusted me with his daughter. Mrs. Alvarez pressed a tissue into Maggie's hand. Your father chose well, the old woman said softly. 26 years ago. He saw what you couldn't. What did he see? A man who would burn his own world down to keep yours safe. Maggie looked at the fireplace. Torn open now. Empty. The safe gaped like a wound. But not really empty. Never really empty. What happens now? She asked. Hannah stepped forward. The shares transfer to you. Legal heir. No contest possible with the letter as proof. The cassette recordings go to the prosecutor. Vince faces charges in 3 states. And the house? Owen cleared his throat. The hazards are real, but fixable. Give me 2 weeks, I'll work with the city. Get you an extension, maybe a rehabilitation grant. I'll help. Lila squeezed her mother's shoulder. Every day off. Every spare hour. We all will. Maggie stood. Walked to the fireplace. Touched the broken bricks. My father put his mark here. 30 years ago. She found the sparrow carved into the hearthstone. Traced its tiny wings. He wanted me to find this. Wanted me to know I was loved. She turned to Ray. And you kept it safe. For 5 years. Even when I hated you. I never needed you to love me. His voice was barely a whisper. Just needed you to be okay. Maggie crossed the room, sat on the arm of his chair. What if I want to love you again? Ray looked up, hope and fear warring in his eyes. Then I'd ask you to wait, until I deserve it. You already do. She kissed his forehead. Gentle, soft, a beginning. We have a lot to rebuild. I know. This house, our family, everything. I know. She took his hand. But first, hospital. No arguments. Ray laughed, then groaned. Fine, but I'm not staying overnight. We'll see about that. Chapter 10. Lighting the fire again. 3 months later, spring arrived slowly in Ohio, the way it always did. Gray skies giving way to blue, frozen ground softening, trees budding green against the fading snow. Maggie stood in the doorway of the house. Her house now. Theirs. The garbage was gone. Every bag, every box, every newspaper and broken lamp and forgotten receipt. The walls were painted fresh, warm cream with white trim. The floors were clean and polished. The windows sparkled in the morning light. And the fireplace? Rebuilt. Brick by Ray's own hands. She watched him now, kneeling by the hearth, setting kindling in the grate. His ribs had healed. The bruises had faded. He moved slower than before, but steadier, more certain. Ready? He asked. Almost. Lila came through the back door, arms full of grocery bags. I got the marshmallows, and the chocolate, and the graham crackers. We're not camping, Maggie laughed. First fire in a new fireplace deserves s'mores. It's tradition. Since when? Since right now. I'm making it up. Deal with it. Mrs. Alvarez arrived next, carrying a casserole dish in one hand and a photo album in the other. I found more pictures, from the early years, before things got complicated. She set them on the coffee table. Thought you might want them. Owen Park came by at noon. Not for an inspection this time. Just to see the progress. Looks good. He nodded at the fresh paint. The clean floors. Really good. City's satisfied. No more deadlines. Thank you. Maggie shook his hand. For giving us a chance. Thank Ray. He did the work. I just held the clipboard. Even Hannah Price stopped by. Paperwork in hand. Final documents. The shares have been transferred. The estate is officially settled. She smiled. And the scholarship fund is active. First applications arrived last week. The scholarship. Maggie's idea. Half the inheritance went to Lila. Student loans paid off. Future secured. The burden of debt lifted from her shoulders forever. The other half became the Thomas Brennan Memorial Trade Fund. Scholarships for young people learning practical skills. Masonry, plumbing, electrical work, carpentry. Skills that built things, fixed things, kept homes standing. Ray would teach the masonry classes. Starting next fall. Seems right, he'd said when Maggie proposed it. Your father spent his life building. Someone should pass that on. Now everyone gathered in the living room. 7 people. Old friends. New family. The smell of coffee and Mrs. Alvarez's casserole filled the air. Maggie handed Ray the matches. You should do it. You earned this. He took the small box, turned it in his hands. His eyes were wet. I spent 5 years afraid of fire, afraid of what it could destroy. And now I remember what it can create. Warmth, light, a place for people to gather. He struck the match. The flame danced orange and gold. He touched it to the kindling. The paper caught. The wood crackled. Heat began to spread. For the first time in 5 years, the fireplace held fire. Everyone watched in silence. The flames grew, reached up the chimney, cast dancing shadows on the fresh white walls. Mrs. Alvarez wiped her eyes. It's beautiful. It's warm, Lila said. That's the important part. Ray stood, stepped back from the hearth. Maggie moved next to him, slipped her hand into his. You know what I realized? She said quietly. What? I spent 3 years trying to forget this house. Threw away the photos, deleted the memories, acted like none of it was real. And now I understand. She squeezed his fingers. You can't sort people like objects. Can't throw away years and call it clean. Can't organize your way out of pain. What can you do? Sit with it. Learn from it. Let it change you. She leaned into his shoulder. I came here to clean up a mess. Instead, I found everything I'd lost. Your father's gift. More than that. She looked up at him. I found you again. The real you. Not the man I thought you'd become. The man you always were. I made a lot of mistakes. So did I. So did everyone. She touched his face. But we're still here. Still standing? He kissed her forehead. Gentle. Warm. Together. Together. They turned back to the fire. The hearth glowed orange and gold. Above it, on the mantel, sat a framed photograph. Their wedding day. Yellow daisies in her hair. Next to it, the old fireplace tools. Polished bright. The brass gleamed, and carved into the hearthstone. Barely visible unless you knew to look. A sparrow. Wings spread. Ready to fly. Lila appeared with skewered marshmallows. Okay, enough with the emotional stuff. S'more time. That's an order. The room filled with laughter. Mrs. Alvarez showed more photographs. Named faces. Told stories about block parties and snowstorms and the year someone's dog stole the Thanksgiving turkey. Owen ate 3 sandwiches and talked about his own house renovation. Hannah told stories about strange cases, wills hidden in mattresses, fortunes found in attics. The fire crackled. The hours passed. One by one, the guests said goodbye, hugged Maggie, shook Ray's hand, promised to come back soon. Finally, only family remained. Leela curled up on the new couch with the photo album. Ray, adding another log to the fire. Maggie, standing in the middle of the room she'd tried so hard to forget. Mom? Lila looked up from the photos. Are you okay? I'm better than okay. Maggie smiled. I'm home. Later, after Lila fell asleep on the couch, Maggie and Ray sat alone by the dying fire. The flames had burned low. Embers glowed orange beneath the ash. Ray, yeah? What do we do now? He thought for a moment, watching the embers pulse. We take it slow, one day at a time. Rebuild what we can. Let go of what we can't. Do you think we can make it work? After everything? I think we already did. He took her hand. We just didn't know it yet. She rested her head on his shoulder, watched the last flames flicker and fade. Outside, spring pushed through the final frost. Somewhere nearby, a bird sang. Inside, 2 people sat in the warmth of a fire that had taken 30 years to light. Not everything was fixed. Some scars would stay forever. Some memories would always hurt. But the silence was gone. The secrets were out. And the house was finally, truly home. Ray? Yeah? Thank you for everything. For keeping the fire burning. Even when I wasn't here to see it? He squeezed her hand. That's what home is. Keeping the fire burning, no matter what. The embers glowed soft and steady. Outside, the first stars appeared. Inside, 2 people who had lost everything found something worth more than money. A second chance. A new beginning. A reason to believe that some things, once broken, could be made whole again.